Incredible discovery, single dad's heartwarming act for disabled soldier mom reveals hidden mill. In a small Midwestern town where the sun sets with a golden glow, Jake, a weary single father, stood on his front porch, holding a tiny hand in his own. His daughter, Lily, barely 7 but more full of life than a summer garden, twirled around him, giggling as her pink dress spun like a whirlwind. Little did he know, their seemingly perfect evening was about to shift in an unexpected direction. One day, Jake noticed something amiss next door. Sarah, the war veteran who lived with her son, kept a low profile, always in the shadows, struggling under the weight of unyielding debt from medical bills incurred after an injury in service. Jake could see the toll it was taking on her, the way her shoulders sagged, like a wilted flower in late autumn. The hardships of raising kids while healing from war left her vulnerable, and Jake's heart ached. There was no other way, he resolved to help her. Just as he gathered his courage to knock on her door, a familiar pang of doubt washed over him. What about his finances? Could he stretch himself thin without breaking? But something deeper pulled him forward, the knowledge of Sarah's sacrifice clawed at his insides. He knocked. Incredible, isn't it? A lonely act of kindness could light up a whole neighborhood. He thought, recalling the warmth in his heart after bringing a meal and some simple groceries. He had no idea what his small gesture would ignite. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Touched by Jake's kindness, Sarah opened up more. She shared the burdens weighing her down, and the lengths she went through to make ends meet. Encouraged by their growing friendship, Jake sensed a fire within him. He decided to rally the neighborhood for a fundraiser to revive the old mill, a rusted relic from their town's glory days. It had long been a symbol of lost hope, a place where dreams had once flourished. As excitement grew, tensions bubbled underneath. Old rivalries resurfaced, and doubt crept in, blurring Jake's initial resolve. Could he truly unite the town? He faced short glances and whispered doubts from still skeptic neighbors. Just when he thought they were on the right path, unforeseen hurdles appeared, like shadows at dusk. Still, he could hear Lily's laughter, filling the cracks in his heart. They stood before the mill, brightness in Jake's eyes mixed with uncertainty. Could he transform their desperate dreams into tangible hope? As the clock ticked on their upcoming fundraiser, he clutched Lily's hand tighter. Feelings of inadequacy gnawed at him, yet he refused to surrender. Could they unite, or would their dreams slip through their fingers like sand? The answer waited in the wind, but Jake was determined to fight, to believe. Jake took a deep breath, steadying himself against the uncertainty swirling in the air. The weathered building before him stood as a quiet observer to their hopes and dreams, its peeling paint whispering the stories of summers long past. He could almost hear the laughter of children playing in the nearby fields, the bustle of families gathered for picnics, and the optimism that had once thrived in the very heart of their little town. "Are you ready, Daddy?" Lily asked, her voice pulling him back to the present. Her small face radiated purity and innocence, reminding him of the real stakes involved. It wasn't about just restoring a mill, it was about reviving a spirit for not only Sarah and her son, but for everyone in their community, to unite them in a common goal. "I am, sweetheart," Jake replied, forcing a smile. "Let's get everyone together." With that, he turned and set off down the dusty road, envisioning the faces he would encounter. He knew he had to face that mix of skepticism and ridicule with a calm spirit. He'd seen how the shadows fell on some of his neighbors' eyes as they traded dark glances, but his resolve had to shine like a beacon. As he walked, he thought of Sarah's words, how she had compared their situation to a battle. Eventually, Jake arrived at the center of town, where the community bulletin board groaned under the weight of colorful flyers and announcements. He set to work. With every flyer he placed each bright and bold invitation to the fundraiser, he could feel the heaviness of doubt start to lift. Each poster was a step toward something more significant. Word spread quickly. Jake stayed up late into the night preparing for the event, gathering supplies, contacting local businesses for donations, and planning fun activities for the kids. Lily helped diligently, her small hands cutting ribbon and colors as they decorated jars for a raffle. There was a growing anticipation, but with it lingered a sense of trepidation. What if the community didn't show? On the day of the fundraiser, the sun peeked cautiously through clouds, painting the sky a hopeful shade of blue. The old mill, once a somber silhouette, looked a bit more alive against the bright color of the day. As people began to trickle in, Jake's heart raced. Would they show up? Would they care? Slowly but surely, his neighbors came, some with friends, others dragging reluctant spouses. They mingled, laughter sparking like fireworks as the aroma of homemade food filled the air. Sarah arrived almost shyly, her son in tow. She wore a smile that lit up her tired features. It made Jake's heart soar. But the breakthrough came unexpectedly when he noticed a small group whispering in the corner, their faces flushed with uncertainty. Sensing something was amiss, he approached them. "What is going on?" he asked with genuine concern. Jake, one of them, a longtime neighbor, spoke hesitantly. "We heard about the fundraiser, but there are people here we might have feuded with over the years. I don't want to make it awkward." Jake's pulse quickened. This was the moment. But that's the point. He urged, eyes sparkling with excitement. This is a chance to mend, to unite. We all have our pasts. Let us put them aside. For Sarah. For our kids. For the mill. The energy in the air shifted slightly. He could feel hope threading through the group. Were those barriers, once indestructible, beginning to crack? As they talked, laughter bubbled over conflicts, and bonds began to stitch themselves into a tapestry of hope. Jake stared around the scene, heart swelling with realization that transformation was just within reach. He could see it simmering. And yet, just as he let himself bask in the warmth of determination, the afternoon sun seemed to vanish behind a thick blanket of gray clouds. A distant rumble echoed across the horizon, weather changing fast. "Oh," Lily said, looking up at him, "do you think it's going to rain?" Jake's heart sank, and uncertainty surfaced once more. They were so close to their dreams, would they be swept away like leaves in a storm? The answer loomed, hanging like a question in the air, waiting for that very moment to reveal itself. The first drops of rain splattered on the ground like miniature bombs, their sound mingling with the laughter that had only just begun to fill the air. At first, people looked up, eyes wide, disbelief crossing their faces. Jake felt a shift, a wave of anxiety washed over the buzz that had just started to heal old wounds, like a cruel joke played by the sky. "Everyone," he called, raising his voice above the growing chatter of concern. "Let us move inside the mill. It can shelter us while we carry on with the festivities." He glanced at Lily, who was peering at the darkening clouds with worry. It was as if their dream was hanging by a thread, and now, nature threatened to sever it. But he wouldn't let that happen. He quickly clapped his hands and gestured for the crowd to follow him, hoping they'd share in his determination. As families and neighbors hustled toward the mill's entrance, their chatter filled the space with tentative excitement. People who had once exchanged heated words in grocery store aisles now stood together, united by a common cause and a shared roof. Jake could feel the atmosphere tightening around him, like the strings of a guitar, ready to play a sweet melody of revival. Once inside, Jake took center stage amid the old machinery gathering dust. With a warm smile, he began speaking, letting his passion pour over the crowd. "Look around. This place, it holds our stories, our memories. And just like us, it deserves another chance." He swept his hands wide, gesturing to the beams of the mill that stretched high above them. Let us not let a little rain dampen our spirits. What do you say we get this fundraiser rolling? Cheers erupted, igniting the fire of enthusiasm within the group. People began to set up tables hastily, shifting positions and rearranging games and raffle booths. Jake watched as members of the community moved together to make the most of their situation, a spirit he had longed for ever since this idea was born. In the midst of it all, Sarah stepped forward, her son on her hip. And let me say, I'm willing to match whatever we raise today. There's not a person here who hasn't benefited from this mill in one way or another. Why not pay it forward? A ripple of energy surged through the room. Questions of doubt began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of purpose. Knowing she had their support gave Jake the boost he needed. Right then, he felt an unmistakable bond wrapping around each person, something thicker than blood, a community stitched together by resilience. But as activities kicked off, children running around, laughter blending with the sound of rain tapping against the roof, Jake's heart raced for another reason. Could the mill still be saved? Were those distant rumbles of thunder merely a storm, or was it foreshadowing the real storm brewing inside his heart? Just when Jake thought he had secured their hope, a commotion pulled him from his thoughts. A man rushed in through the entrance, soaked and panting. You won't believe what we found in the old mill. His eyes were bright with excitement. Found? What do you mean? Jake stepped forward, fear mixed with curiosity flooding through him. There's something hidden in the back. You need to see this. The man waved him over, urgency thick in his voice. Every flutter of excitement in Jake's chest suddenly turned into a taut string. Did this discovery mean not only a chance to restore the mill but perhaps something deeper yet unforeseen? And what other secrets lay hidden in the shadows? He followed the man, a sense of wonder pulling him forward. Jake turned one last time to see Lily's face glowing with hope, just like Sarah's smile. Just like the determination reflected in every person huddled together for warmth, for unity. As Jake stepped toward the back of the mill, the rain continued to pour, but the warmth inside pushed back against it. What awaited him in that darkened corner? What secrets lay tucked away, just waiting for the right moment to emerge? Jake squeezed between old machines, the air thick with dust and anticipation. The man led him to the back of the mill, where shadows loomed and secrets lay dormant. Every step felt like a heartbeat, echoing the hope swirling within him. What did you find? Jake asked, his voice a whisper filled with wonder. The man pointed to a rusted door tucked in a corner, almost blending into the peeling walls. Behind there. I heard something when I stumbled in. His fingers trembled slightly, as if he still could hardly believe his own discovery. Jake nodded, swallowing hard. Fear and exhilaration twisted in his gut. He pushed the door open, hinges creaking like a ghost from the past. A narrow passageway stretched before them, leading into darkness. Are you ready? Jake asked, glancing back at the man. They were in this together now. Let us do it, the man replied, his excitement spilling over. Jake stepped inside, light from the mill barely pushing into the void ahead. He felt the coolness wash over him, brushing against his skin. It was a stark contrast to the warmth of the gathering outside. Every instinct told him they were about to uncover something significant. As they moved deeper, Jake's heart raced. His hands brushed against the rugged walls, searching for signs, hints of what could be hidden. They turned a corner, and there it was, a faded mural, barely visible but spectacular in its detail. It depicted the mill in its prime, surrounded by families, smiles plastered across their faces. Look at this, Jake breathed, stepping closer. The colors whispered stories of joy and resilience, the beauty of life intertwined with the mill. This could inspire us. It could show everyone how much this place meant. The man nodded, his eyes wide. It's incredible. But there's more. With that, he knelt down, brushing aside debris to reveal what looked like an old, ornate chest. Jake's pulse quickened. He had to see what lay inside. Each breath felt charged with electricity, as if the air itself were alive with possibility. The man helped him lever the chest open, the wood sighing like an old friend revealing long-held secrets. Dust motes danced around them in the dim light as they peered inside. Old photographs, documents, and letters filled the chest, beautiful relics of lives lived and cherished. Jake's fingers trembled as he pulled out a photograph of a wedding day, the mill standing proud in the background. Love radiated from the captured moment, and Jake could hardly contain the warmth blooming in his chest. "This is gold," he said, awestruck. "We can share these stories. They'll remind everyone why we're here." Suddenly, the enthusiasm from the mill flowed through him. He envisioned banners hanging, voices sharing these histories and the legacy of the mill with all who entered. But then a doubt crept in: had he been too hasty? Would the community value these memories, or had years of neglect dulled their sense of belonging? Just as Jake pondered this, a loud crash echoed from the entrance. The revelry outside faltered as surprised gasps filled the air. "What now?" Jake exchanged worried glances with the man as they rushed back toward the noise. An unexpected dread settled in Jake's stomach. Had their fleeting hope just hit another wall? As they stepped back into the main room, the rain raged on, but Jake's heart held on to the glittering possibility in the chest. What untold histories could revive their mill? Would they stand together against whatever storm came next? He braced himself for what lay ahead. Their moment of truth was just beginning. The door swung open with a creak, and Jake felt the energy shift in the room. Shadows danced across the faces of the small crowd gathered in the main hall, eyes wide with curiosity, wonder, and fear. Their laughter had faded into whispers, replaced by an unsettling tension that knotted in Jake's stomach. "What happened?" someone shouted from the edge of the gathering. Before Jake could answer, the man who had joined him in the passageway blurted out, "We found something. Inside the mill." His voice was filled with excitement, but the weight of the crashing noise lingered, darkening the room's atmosphere. The crowd shifted, eyes darting toward the two of them, questions written all over their faces. Jake looked from one person to another, feeling the weight of expectation crashing down, just like the sound that had pulled him from the treasure they had uncovered. "Just wait," he was about to say, hoping to keep their curiosity long enough to share the joy he felt. But he swallowed hard, realizing he had to address the doubt he'd seen flicker across some of their faces when the man had spoken. Would they even care about an old mural and forgotten letters? The mill's history felt like a fragile treasure, something he couldn't piece together alone. As he pushed through the crowd, Jake felt the warmth from the chest in his heart. It reminded him that the mill belonged to them, to each person standing before him. "It's a part of us," he called out. "We found a mural and treasures from our past. There's so much to share." The crowd murmured, faces lighting up with intrigue. The tension lifted a little, but Jake could still sense the lingering doubt. They needed a rallying point, a spark to reignite their passion for the mill. A woman stepped forward, her brow furrowed. "That's great, Jake, but what caused the crash?" She gestured back toward where the noise had come from. Jake's mind raced, realizing he'd completely forgotten about it in the rush of discovery. "What did happen?" he echoed nervously. The crowd reacted, whispers mixing with suspicion, their attention split between him and the unknown chaos outside. The man with Jake approached the door, peering through the small opening before turning back to the group. A tree it fell over near the entrance. The wind's so strong, his voice trailed off, the reality of their struggles creeping back in. The community had faced challenges before, but the threat of nature felt out of their control. Jake's heart sank. Would this setback be yet another reason for the community to walk away from the mill? Their histories felt fragile now, almost crushed under the weight of present dangers. But then something inside him ignited again, a determination to see this through. "Let us go check it out together," he suggested, fighting to inject some optimism into the dark atmosphere. "If we work together, we can clear it up. We won't let the storm win." Some faces lightened at his enthusiasm, but others remained doubtful. Could they really band together under this stress? Before anyone could respond, Jake took a step back toward the door, motioning for the man to follow. We've already found hope behind those closed doors. Maybe we can find more out there. The crowd started shifting closer, propelled by his urgency. What waited outside felt both daunting and exhilarating. If they faced it together, they might uncover a new strength, a deeper connection to their shared memories. As Jake stepped out into the swirling wind and rain, the warmth of the chest's treasures lingered in his heart. Would this be their moment of truth? Would they transform the storm into a force for unity? And just as his hopes lifted, a sudden flash of lightning illuminated the path ahead. It was a jarring reminder of nature's wrath. But as it faded, so did Jake's doubts. Whatever lay ahead, he would step into it, fighting for their past, their future, and the strength of community together. But what would the storm reveal next? The storm howled around them as Jake stepped out into the chaos, drenched almost immediately by the sudden downpour. The wind whipped past, forcing him to squint against the rain, but he could sense movement behind him. The small crowd, hesitant yet hopeful, shuffled out into the elements. "Stay close," he shouted over the roar of the wind, feeling emboldened. As he looked back, he caught sight of the faces he had grown up with, some full of fear, but a few brave enough to show a glimmer of excitement. Together, they approached the fallen tree, a thick trunk that had crashed onto the mill steps, splintered branches scattered like broken promises across the ground. Jake felt an urge to reassure them. "If we can clear this, we can show the mill's worth. It's what we've fought for." He grabbed a branch, the rain soaking him through to the bone. "Who's with me?" he called out, adrenaline surging. A few of the crowd stepped forward, hesitant at first. Then, Kathy, an older woman with a sturdy frame and a fierce spirit, took the lead. "I'm not standing here getting soaked for nothing," she declared, and soon, others rallied behind her. As they worked to lift the limbs and clear the path, laughter began to peek through the raindrops. Jake felt the warmth of connection blooming. Each person gripped a part of the storm's aftermath, striving together, their shared history intertwining with each heave and shuffle. But just as the energy peaked, Jake felt himself drawn back to the mural. Hadn't it shown them something vital? Something beyond forgotten histories? With each scrape of bark against skin and roars of wind, he could almost hear the echoes of their ancestors urging them to fight for what was right. "Keep going," he yelled, lifting a branch with Kathy's help. "We've uncovered our past, and look at us. We are still standing." Suddenly, a sharp crack split the air, a loud boom that stalled their progress. Jake turned, heart racing. The crowd had grown silent. The worry etched on their faces told him the storm had dealt its next blow. A moment later, a flash of lightning struck ominously close. The wind rose, howling in protest as the rain bucked harder. "Just some thunder," Jake said, but his words felt hollow. Doubts crept into his mind, matching the tension building in the air. Would fear override their promise to speak for the mill? Would some turn back, letting nature dictate their story? Then, through the chaos, a shout caught his attention. "Look!" It was the man who had first spoken upon their return. He pointed toward the side of the mill where another part of the roofing had buckled. Jake squinted, trying to see through the rain. As lightning flashed again, he caught sight of something glinting in the mud. Something buried just beneath the sodden earth. "Let's check that out," he said, urgency clawing at his chest. He felt the pull of destiny, the chance to find something greater than them all. As they trudged to the side of the mill, hearts pounding in unison, Jake's mind raced. What if this was more than just storm cleanup? What if they were about to uncover another piece of their shared past, something even more powerful than the mural? They reached the spot, and as Jake knelt down, hands shaking not just from the cold but from anticipation, he scraped away the mud covering whatever lay beneath. He took a breath, about to pull something free. Would the community find hope and strength in whatever lay hidden, or would the storm swallow it all? And then, with a final pull, the object broke free, glinting strangely in the stormy light. But what was it? Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he pulled the object from the mud. It was a weathered plaque, ornate and heavy, inscribed with unfamiliar names and dates. The cold metal glimmered under the relentless rain, its surface coated in grime but undeniably historic. Jake brushed more dirt away and caught a glimpse of an emblem and image from the town's past, a reminder of forgotten victories. "Look at this," he shouted, his voice cutting through the howling winds. The crowd, initially silent, edged closer, curiosity overriding their fear. Faces illuminated with the flickering light of another bolt of lightning, they gathered round, an extension of themselves reaching out for connection. "What does it say?" Kathy asked, leaning in, her voice bright despite the storm. Jake squinted at the fading letters, still damp and obscured. "I think it's a dedication. To, the founders of the mill." He traced the worn edges of the plaque, a sense of awe dawning upon him. "Founders? This could be our way to honor them," a voice piped up from the back. Another voice chimed in, filled with excitement, "We need to clean it up, make it visible again." The rain fell harder, but now it hardly felt like a barrier. Instead, it became a part of them, a cleansing force allowing new ideas to wash over old traditions. They dug deeper, hands working together, unearthing more possible remnants of their town's beginnings, their rightful history floating back into reach. Suddenly, Jake's thoughts were interrupted as he felt a tremor beneath him. Another crack of lightning signaled a wave of collective unease. Could they bring what they uncovered into the light despite the storm's rage? Would they stand united against nature, knowing the strength of their shared past? "Let us move the plaque," Jake called out, looking at each determined face. "Whatever we uncover, let us take it to the mill, give it a proper home." Without thinking, a group of them formed a chain, passing the plaque carefully from hand to hand. Their urgency turned into a rhythm, a dance as they raced to the mill's entrance, laughter rekindling through the gale. As they reached the steps, Jake caught sight of the mural glowing faintly under the pouring rain. It seemed to beckon them, its colors brightening against the darkened sky, competing with the storm that threatened to drown them. They had unearthed a piece of their identity, its meaning mingled with the mural's vibrant imagery. "Together!" Jake shouted, a fire in his chest. "Let us hang it there. Let it speak for us, for our history." Miracles happened in storms, he reminded himself, and together, they lifted the plaque and affixed it to the wall with trembling hands. It felt right, like healing. But just as they stepped back, appreciating the newfound glory of their discovery, a loud crack resounded, this time accompanied by a shifting roar of wind. All attention turned skyward. "What now?" someone yelled, panic creeping in. Above them, a large branch from a nearby tree, dislodged by the relentless wind, was teetering dangerously. "Move!" Jake screamed, adrenaline kicking in again. But as a myriad of emotions surged through him, fear, protectiveness, hope, he felt something else. What if they hadn't just uncovered their past? What if, in that moment of panic, they would also reveal their future? As the branch began to fall, everything changed. Would they all make it out? Would the storm truly show what they were made of? And who would lead them now, when the fight escalated from the downpour they had faced to what loomed just above? Time seemed to slow as the branch lurched from its perch, suspended for just a heartbeat. Jake's instincts kicked in. "Get back!" he shouted, watching as the dark silhouette of the branch sliced through the air, looking as menacing as an executioner's axe. He instinctively lunged toward the crowd, pushing Kathy and a few others to the ground just as the thunderous crash reverberated through the air, the branch splintering on the steps of the mill, sending debris flying like confetti in a storm. Heart racing, Jake pulled himself up from the mud, looking around frantically. Rain poured down, washing away fear and gathering adrenaline in its wake. He had just acted on instinct, but those split seconds had transformed into moments filled with mutual concern, jolting the group out of their panic. "Is everyone okay?" he called, scanning their faces lit only by flashes of lightning. There were gasps and murmurs, but most were unharmed, shaken but alive. Relief washed over him, even as the chaos echoed around them. Kathy's wide eyes met his. What was that? Is it over? She looked up at the branches still dancing dangerously, her voice quivering slightly. Let us just stay back for a bit, Jake replied, feeling the weight of leadership settle heavier on his shoulders. Together, they took a step further away from the unstable tree, creating a safer distance. The storm's fury painted everything around them in shades of gray, but in Jake's heart, a flicker of something stubbornly bright began to emerge, a determination not just to survive, but to thrive. As the rain began to taper off, the air felt different, charged not with fear, but with possibility. Jake turned back to the mural and the plaque now adorning the wall. Could it really be the town's history they were reclaiming, or was it something bigger? The sense of connection sparked again, stirring hope. They had stood firm against the storm, perhaps they could stand just as firm for the legacies that enriched their lives. Let us make a plan, Jake said, rising above the sounds of the now drizzling rain, his voice steady. This plaque needs a real tribute. A plan for the founders, for all of us. We can gather stories and create something for the town, a new tradition. Slowly, eyes glimmered with shared determination. We can hold a festival, someone shouted, invite everyone to remember what this place really means. Yes, said another. A celebration. For the past, the present, and the future. Jake felt emboldened by the enthusiasm. Exactly. We can create a mural of our own right beside this one. It'll be a canvas for everyone's story. As they clustered, each idea mingling with the next, a collective warmth filled the air, driving away lingering doubts. The storm might have battered them, but it also prepared them to fend off future challenges, united by purpose. But then, through the clearing sky, a freezing gust whipped past, stronger than before, distracting them all. The ground trembled once again, this time not from falling branches. A rumble, unlike any thunder before, the sound resonated from deep below them, vibrating through their feet to their core. What was that? Someone gasped. Jake's heart quickened again, worry nudging closer. Was the storm not finished? Or was this something else entirely? As he glanced at the others, excitement mixed with fear, and he braced himself. Whatever lay beneath the surface, it felt alive and waiting. Let us stay alert, Jake said, steering the group away from the walls of the mill. They had survived the storm. But now, something else was awakening, something that might challenge their bonds and beliefs all over again. What could it be? And would they be strong enough to face it together? The vibrations beneath their feet grew louder, reverberating through the ground like a distant drumbeat. Jake's heart raced. The group, once abuzz with hopeful ideas, fell silent, their eyes searching the ground for answers. The energy was palpable, thickening the air as they felt the potential danger switch places with whatever opportunity was rising up. Stay back. Jake urged again, taking a step into the center of the group. It was instinctual. The desire to shield them surged through him. They needed to protect one another, especially now. Just when the rumbling subsided, a crack appeared in the earth at the foot of the old mill's steps. Dust swirled, and the smell of damp earth mingled with the rain-soaked air. Whispers of disbelief fluttered among them, each person momentarily frozen, eyes wide. Then, out of the fissure, a glint of something metallic caught the light. What is that? Kathy whispered, her voice trembling both from excitement and fear. The rain had finally relented, but nature still held its breath, waiting to see what would emerge. Jake didn't hesitate. Let us see. He approached carefully, his heart pounding. Reaching down, he brushed the debris aside, revealing what appeared to be a rusted handle. He glanced back at the group. I think it's a door. Are you serious? Someone gasped. The intrigue tugged at the others, and one by one, they edged closer to Jake, curiosity overcoming their fear. With determination, he pulled on the handle, a loud creak echoing as the ground seemed to tremble again underneath them. The door was heavy, encrusted with layers of mud and years of neglect. But it gave way. Dust billowed out like a long-forgotten memory rising to the surface. "Look!" Kathy exclaimed, pointing. Beyond the threshold lay a stone staircase disappearing into darkness. It was lined with vines that pulsed with moisture, the very life that filled their town. "We have to go down there." Jake felt a thrill. This could be a gateway to something extraordinary that might tie to the history they had been wanting to reclaim. "What about the festival?" someone called out, lingering doubt piercing through the excitement. "Shouldn't we focus on that?" "No." Jake's voice was firm but understanding. "This could be part of it. A piece of our legacy." He could see the glimmer of discovery reflecting back in their eyes. "We can celebrate our heritage through this. Who knows what secrets lie beneath our feet?" Kathy stepped forward, her hand trembling as she reached for Jake's. "You really think it could be something meaningful?" Jake nodded, feeling the camaraderie swell again. "I know it will be. Together, we can uncover it. All of us should explore together. We can learn more about the town's origins, something we can share during the celebration." One by one, they agreed, their excitement growing as they looked at each other, feeling the thrill of adventure coursing through them. They had weathered a storm and now had the chance to discover something greater. The group formed a chain, descending the damp, ancient steps. The air turned cooler, each breath filled with anticipation and a hint of the unknown. Each step echoed, blending with whispers of the past as they journeyed deeper into the heart of their town, where secrets long buried awaited. But as they descended, the rumbling began anew, a stronger surge vibrating through the ground, as if the earth was urging them back. What lay deeper in the darkness? And would they be prepared for what they would discover? The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to pulse with energy. The stone steps felt like they were alive, each one an echo of the footsteps that had come before. Jake led the way, his heart thumping in rhythm with the vibrations around them. The darkness seemed to wrap them in a cloak of possibility, each twist and turn a new chapter waiting to unfold. As they reached the bottom of the staircase, a dim light flickered to life, casting moving shadows against the walls. Jake squinted, taking a cautious step into the cavernous space that opened up before them. The light came from an oil lamp hanging from the ceiling, illuminating old machinery and tools lined against the walls, remnants of the mill's history. "Look at this!" Kathy exclaimed, her voice echoing off the stone. "These must have been used when the mill was operational." Jake's pulse quickened as he moved further in. The room was a treasure trove of artifacts, it was like stepping back in time. He walked past old gear wheels and dusty crates marked with faded letters. His fingers brushed against the surfaces, feeling the grooves and bumps of lives lived long before his own. Suddenly, a flicker of color caught his eye. In the corner, partially hidden beneath a pile of debris, was a colorful quilt. As Jake lifted it, he could see it was embroidered with intricate patterns, stories woven into the fabric. The quilt told of family gatherings, festivals, and community strength, a tapestry of their history. What if we displayed this at the festival? Jake mused, the idea forming as he spoke. It can represent all the stories we've uncovered. Kathy nodded enthusiastically, her excitement palpable. It would remind everyone of our roots, connect us to those who came before. The others crowded closer, drawn in by the vision he painted. They could see it now, a festival celebrating their unified history, showing how far they had come and how far they could go, stitching together the old with the new. In that moment, Jake felt a swell of pride. They had uncovered more than just relics from a forgotten era, they had synthesized hope, unity, and a shared journey. It was bigger than any one person, it was for everyone in the town. As they gathered around the quilt, the rumbling beneath them quieted, replaced by a warm stillness. It was as if the space recognized their intentions, offering solace and familiarity. Jake could see in his neighbor's eyes a flicker of anticipation. They were ready to claim their past and shape their future together. As they prepared to head back, a collective energy surged, laughter filled the air, conversations ignited about how to preserve this piece of history and the stories they had uncovered. Jake could feel the community tightening like a winch, each member a thread vital to the fabric they were weaving together. They stepped back onto the staircase, hearts finally light instead of heavy. When they emerged back into the rain-washed world, something had changed. The storm clouds had dispersed, giving way to beams of sunlight that filtered through the remnants of the storm. It was as though the universe was celebrating with them. "Let us start planning," Jake said, determination lighting up his voice. "We've got a festival to prepare for. Let us gather stories, create displays, and ensure this mill our history is cherished and understood." He watched as Sarah stepped forward, her eyes shining with newfound hope. "We can invite everyone. Share the quilt and the stories behind it. Let us make sure no one forgets what this place means." Heads nodded in agreement, excitement dancing among them. They were a team now, a community bonded by history and purpose. The smile creeping onto Jake's face was infused with pure joy, saturating the atmosphere with their shared vision. As they started back toward the town, holding that quilt close, rain-battered, and battle-worn yet undeniably hopeful, Jake couldn't help but feel that they were standing at the threshold of something new. Their stories were about to be told, and he knew they would resonate across generations. Jake turned to Lily, who was twirling again, laughter spilling into the air. Her uninhibited joy was infectious, and with it came a realization their transformation was not just a revival of the mill, it was a revival of their hearts. And as they moved forward, united and complete, Jake understood that the true essence of community was always rooted in the connections they shared. No storm would break that bond again. They were stronger, together. Now, it was time to celebrate. It was their moment, time to turn whispers of the past into songs of the future. Do you feel that? That's the energy of change. You need to subscribe now to not miss any of the incredible stories to come. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button immediately. Comment below your thoughts on this transformation and your favorite part of the journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how powerful community can be. Let us celebrate and uplift one another.